Hey guys, John Bush here. I just wanted to riff a little bit on all of the division that's taking place in America and really all across the world as of late. And I'm here in Acapulco, Mexico, surrounded by a bunch of Mexicanos, and I couldn't feel more at home and more welcomed, and everyone's so friendly and kind. Yet there's so much rhetoric coming out of America back home about the Mexicans coming in to take our jobs and criminal this, gang that. And of course, a lot of this thoughts that have been in my head came up because of the whole migrant caravan thing. Seems to be less of an issue now that the election's over. I just want to point out that there's a lot of people that I consider really close friends that have really gone to the extreme with this issue of the migrant caravan. One person who I hold in really high regard and consider a healer, and one of my close friends that I've known for like a decade, he even said, he shared an article about the military being deployed on the border, and saying if these invaders try to get through the border, I hope the military mows them down. Mows them down. And I just can't help but think how this division, especially when it's division based on nationalism, and adherence and allegiance to a nation state, which is an arbitrary institution exercising a geographic monopoly on the initiation of force and violence, as though that's something to get behind. There's just so much division, and it's a trip to be aware, have been thinking outside the box since 2002 when I started questioning the official events of what took place on 9/11, and I saw what was taking place with the George Bush administration, George W. Bush, whereby Muslims, Arabs, Middle Easterners were being demonized. It was so easy to see that a program was being played out, an us versus them, a dehumanization. So the Americans that are funding the war effort with their tax dollars and that are voting for the neocons would continue to support the war and not reject it wholeheartedly, much like what took place in the Vietnam War. And I could see some of these same people that are now saying mow them down and close the borders, and a lot of people that are all hoorah about Trump, some of these same people that were 9/11 truthers back then were aware of the program and could see through the division tactics. Well, it's the same damn program that's being played out now. And some of the people that recognized it under the Bush administration with the war in Iraq and the war in Afghanistan after 9/11, now they're the ones that are all of a sudden making these broad sweeping generalizations about the religion of Islam and about those that are fleeing Syria, for example. And they're just, I feel like there's a decision that's been made, or a feeling that people have that they think it's wrong, and then they use everything they get, they twist it, convolute it, perceive it so as to further their narrative. What's the narrative in this instance? The migrants are an invasion coming from Honduras and South America that are coming to try to take over the country or come get free welfare. The last part of that may be true. And so a lot of people get caught in this whole conspiracy theory thing where everything looks like a conspiracy theory. I call it the Alex Jones effect. That's what I used to be, but I realized a lot of it, there are some great conspiracies taking place, and there's a small group of people that are looking to create a totalitarian, supranational government. But not everything is a conspiracy. And while George Soros is funding some of the groups that are financing this migrant caravan, that have financed some in the past, that doesn't mean that every single person participating isn't genuinely and legitimately looking for a better life than what they see in Honduras with all the crime and violence and gangs and corruption, much of which the U.S. indirectly played a role in with coup d'etats, just as they do all over the place. So I think there's this fear of the other, and there's people that buy a narrative and then they get everything to fit inside of that narrative, even if it means that they feel that you should mow down your fellow human beings. At the end of the day, We're all humans. We're all part of the same species. And I think that unity and compassion for one another, everyone is struggling against what I believe to be the same enemy. That's those people that would want to coerce or control, persecute, oppress. Right? Like, the enemy isn't the rich people versus the poor people. Rather, it's those that want to, specifically as an anarchist, those that want to control the institution of government, because I think that enables people to do the most harm, because they do it with the veil of legitimacy, with the badge or with the political office. And I think that's really harmful. And I think that we could create a better world if, rather than being so divisive and having so much fear of the other, if we all united and had compassion for our fellow human beings, and understood that Mexicans that illegally enter the United States are doing so because the Mexican government is corrupt, the economy hasn't been able to flourish because of the cartels, which are in bed with the government. People that are fleeing from Honduras are legitimately looking for a better life. It's not only men, there's family, women and children that are looking to set up a new life. And even many Middle Easterners that participate in the Mujahideen, freedom fighters that are fighting people that are coming to occupy their land in the name of oil and control and regional hegemony. It's all just a bunch of human beings that are trying to stand up for themselves and better their position. And I don't think we should fault people for that. And I don't think we should buy into arbitrary borders that are might makes right. It was at one point that the Mexican Empire controlled a good chunk of the south of the United States. But might made right came in. And and so it only makes sense that people want to return back to their motherland, or even where generations before were born. We've got to let go of this arbitrary BS and realize that we're all brothers and sisters floating around on a big, giant rock with beautiful scenery and greenery, and there's no reason why we should be hating one another or buying into the very same program that's being played probably since the beginning of civilization. Other humans that are struggling are not your enemy. Your enemy should be those that are willing to use institutions of government or other institutions in order to control, coerce, oppress, and exploit. It's John Bush, peace and freedom. There's my 2 Satoshis. I'm out.